Hi, welcome to the Corner of Knit and Tea, episode 137. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, which is where I sell my handspun yarns. And we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. Please come join us. We have a sock cal going on, or a sock along going on right now. Crafts, we are multi-craftual, so knitting and crocheting are welcome. And we already have a few finished pairs. I talked about the prizes last week, which will include yarn and patterns. And we're all knitting socks. So if you have socks that are partially complete or socks that you want to knit, please come join us. We are knitting them from May 1st through June 30th. Every pair of socks that you complete is eligible for an entry into the FO thread for prizes, and I will be running the random number generator shortly after June 30th to award prizes. So hi, how are you? It is Sunday, May 15th, I think? 14th, 15th. I don't remember. It is Mother's Day in the United States, and I will be calling my mom this afternoon, but it is still early morning here, and she is a couple time zones behind me, so I have not called her yet because it would not be a nice Mother's Day present. So I hope that you are doing well. I have had kind of a little bit of a crazy week. A few months ago, I actually got hit. My car got hit by a taxi cab. I was completely fine, but I needed to have my bumper replaced, so I did that this week. So my car was in the shop, and I had a rental, and there was lots of driving back and forth. And then I am getting ready to go out of town. This Thursday, I will be going up to Chicago to see Roxy and Miles, and my sister and her husband, but definitely Roxy and Miles, my niece and nephew. And I will let you know, I don't think that there will be a podcast next weekend. I have thought about bringing the camera and my computer with me, but I just don't know how much time I'm going to have to really knit. I don't think I'm going to bring that much with me, and I'm going to be spending time with the kids. So I think I'm probably not going to do a podcast next week. So if you don't see one, that's what happened. And I will be back in 2 weeks with even more crafty goodness. But I think I might just take a break and not bring all the equipment with me. Generally, when we go to Chicago, I take a couple knitting projects with me, and I will have knitting time in the car, but I just generally don't do that much while we're there because if the kids are awake, we're spending time with them, and they are exhausting, and sometimes in the evenings, I just don't even have the energy to knit after we've run around with them all day. So I am very much looking forward to that. And so I've been working to try and work ahead and get some things done so that everything is smooth at work while I'm gone. I did release a pattern this week. I released the baby blanket pattern. I am calling it Raishan, which is the name of a green dragon in a Dungeons & Dragons game that I follow called Critical Role. It's put on by Geek and Sundry. If you are a Dungeons & Dragons person, you'll know what I'm talking about, and if not, it's not super important. It was the name of a green dragon, and since the blanket was designed to look like dragon scales, I decided to go with that name. That is up and available for sale now, so if you are interested, please check it out. I did give the blanket to Mom and Dad last weekend at the baby shower, and it was received very well. Baby is due in a few weeks, so hopefully I'll get some pictures once the baby is born, but that was sort of that chapter closed out. My wood sorrel cowl test knitters are finishing up, and that one should be released this week, so keep an eye out for that if you were looking for that one. And I think that sets my pattern releases up, and that might be the end of news and announcements. I had lots to talk about. So let's get into the tea and the knits and the spins, and yeah. So today I am drinking David's tea. It is sugar and spice. And sadly, I believe this is discontinued. I bought this huge bag, which was a half-pound bag when it was on clearance, which is usually what they do if they're getting rid of a tea. It is black tea, apples, cinnamon, cloves, carrots, marigold petals, orange peel, natural vanilla flavoring. It is just a little bit of a spice cake almost, and I really enjoy that. Maybe one day they'll bring it back or something like it. And today I am drinking it in my Batman Skills mug. This is a Carl Mountford illustration, and I got it from Society 6. So that is the tea for today. It is actually lovely out. It has been a beautiful weekend. My husband ran his third half marathon yesterday, and it actually was almost a tad warm for running. It got up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday, so it was quite warm and pretty, but it is still cool in the house this morning, so I'm drinking my tea hot. And then this afternoon's activities are a little varied. Wes is having some of his friends over. I am cleaning out a closet and making a trip to Goodwill. That is my to donate things that I don't need and don't want. And then we'll do our usual Sunday chores. So it's going to be kind of a quiet Sunday. I hope to get some crafting done, and that's where we're at. So I have one almost finished object this week. By almost finished, I mean that all the knitting is done. I still need to weave in the ends and soak and block it, and then I also need buttons because I finished it late last night, but I wanted to show you anyway. This is the baby/child sophisticate sweater that I was knitting for Miles, and it came out looking really huge, and I double checked my gauge a couple times and I was exactly on gauge. So I don't know if this is going to be too big for him or what. I did choose to knit the 18-month size because I'm going to give it to him in October when he's 1, and he'll be 1.5 by the time winter is over. So, yeah. So, it's a little bit big, but it is a really cute kind of sweet sweater with a little bit of a shawl collar. I will need to block it, and I'll bring it back once I block it and put buttons on it and whatnot. But that is finished for him. That is his birthday sweater for October. Yes, I'm working ahead. Yes, I'm kind of neurotic that way. But this is the Baby Child Sophisticate pattern by Linden Down, and the yarn is Cascade 220 Superwash in the colorway Cobalt, which is this great, brilliant blue, and I absolutely love it. So that is one off the needles. I'm going to weave in the ends and block it this evening, and that will be mostly done. I need to order the buttons. I was browsing my favorite button maker on Etsy, and so I will order something and then finish this off. I'm also trying to consider what I'm going to knit for Miss Roxy for her birthday sweater. And actually that will be coming up a little bit. Every year I talk about how I am not going to do or am going to do Camp Loopy at the Loopy U. That is a virtual camp over the summer. If you have not checked it out before, you should. The premise is you buy yarn for 3 projects. You complete those projects in June, July, and August. If you buy yarn for all 3 and complete all 3, you get a prize at the end of the summer, which is a skein of yarn. She may be doing prizes just a little bit differently this summer. She has sort of talked about that, but she hasn't given all the details yet. So I don't take me at my word for that, but if you complete all 3 projects, there will be a prize. Every year I say either I am going to do it or I'm not going to do it, and this year was one of my I'm not going to do it because I do not need more yarn. I just went to festivals, I just bought a ton, and then it came around and I was like, well, I could. And one of the things is that I do not have yarn for Roxy's birthday sweater, and I thought, well, I could do Roxy's birthday sweater for one of the prompts. And then I do want to do a sweater for me, and I need to buy some yarn for that. So I decided I'm doing it. The first month I will do socks for me, and then the second month I will do Roxy's sweater. So stay tuned for that, but I am also, I might hold off on buying buttons until I have her sweater picked out too, so I can purchase all my buttons at once. I buy from a seller that's overseas, and so I might as well just wait and order them all together, especially since they're not going to be needed till October. So that's the first one down and done. The second project I am working on are my socks for the Socks Cal. I finished the first sock. This is the Opal Best Friends colorways. I have the label, and I'm not going to try and pronounce it. This is the label. It is in German, and yeah. So these are Opal socks. These are basically my vanilla sock pattern with one modification, which is I tried the Sweet Tomato heel by Kat Bordy. And that is a new to me heel, and I will have to wear the socks and see how I feel about that. It is a heel constructed in short row wedges, and I won't say any more because if you're interested, you can purchase the pattern. But it was interesting to knit, and I will be interested to see how it wears. So I finished the first sock of the pair, and I did start the second and have gotten part way into the cuff. It's not super exciting. I will show you. I'm a couple inches into the cuff, so not super far, but these socks will not exactly match because I could not figure out exactly where the repeat was, and I didn't feel like going through the yarn, so they will be fraternal. But that is fine with me, and so that is what I will work on this week, and I hope maybe I'll finish this sock this week and have my second pair of finished socks for the sock cal, and then be able to cast on a new pair. So that is the second thing I'm working on this week. And yeah, so that is another good project. The third project that I am working on, I dropped something, I'll have to pick it up. The third project that I am working on this week is I decided to start the Buccaneer shawl pattern by Justina Lorkowska. It is an asymmetrical triangle, and it has some garter sections and some feather and fan sections. And what I have to show you is not terribly exciting. I started it this week, and actually it is very, very similar to the way the Find Your Fade starts. The patterns were developed at completely different times. They have some completely different techniques where one uses a yarn over, one uses a front and back, but the beginning setup for the triangle is very, very similar. So it's a little bit boring, but this is what I have so far. This is my O-Wool. It is the O-Wash base. It is a fingering base, and it is in the colorway Barn Owl, and that is the main color, and then I have some gradients that I'm going to use in the shawl. And as always, I will be modifying the pattern a little bit. In this case, I am not modifying it because of a design preference, but I have slightly less yarn for the contrasting feather and fan sections than the pattern calls for. So I am going to make the garter sections just slightly bigger, and I haven't gotten to figure out exactly how I'm going to do that yet. I need to read ahead in the pattern and figure that out, but that is what I will be doing for that. So mine will be just a little bit different, and like I said, that's just because I don't have quite as much yarn for the gradient section as it calls for, and I have plenty of yarn for the garter sections, so I'm just going to modify that a little bit. But that is what I'm working on. Yes, it looks a little bit like a thong. That is the way the other looked, and I am maybe halfway or a little bit more done with this section, and pretty soon I'll be adding in some garter stitch. So I am excited about this. Although the construction is a little bit similar, I know the shawl will not be nearly as big, which is fine. I wore my Find Your Fade shawl this week, and it is enormous, and I love it, but a slightly smaller shawl will be fine as well. So that is where I'm at with this one. So those are the three things that I worked on this past week, and because the sweater is now done, I thought I would pull something else out this week. So I'm just going to show you a couple things that I have not started yet. The first is that I'm going to knit a hat for Miles for winter. Again, I'm just working ahead, doing lots of things, trying to kind of spread things out over the year so that I don't have my mad September rush to finish all the things before we go see them and before the holidays. And this is a skein of yarn that I actually won. I am sort of participating along in Eat Sleep Knits, is it 10,000 yards along? In their mileage or their yardathon program. And so I placed an order for, I ordered all the Cascade 220 from there when I ordered for Miles's sweater and also for the baby blanket. And I got a card in there and I filled out the card and it turned out I won a prize. And one of the prizes that I won is this lovely skein of Swoosh Fiber Arts. It is ultra worsted. It is 100% superwash merino in the colorway Pucker Patch, which is this great semi-solid kind of yellowy orange, like egg yolk, and then darker orange. And I thought that would make a super cute hat for Miles and maybe even some mittens. It is 215 yards and I can probably get a hat out of 100 yards. So if I can get mittens out of the other 100, that would be awesome. And so I found a little, it's kind of a little elfish hat. It's called Impish. And it was a free for a limited time last week and it's super cute. So I'm going to knit him one of those this week and wind this yarn up and get going. So that I will have to show you when we talk next. The other thing that I selected is my next sock yarn and sock pattern. I am going to knit another Mina Phillip, the Knitting Expat. I'm going to knit another pattern from her New York sock collection. And the yarn is another Crafty Girl, and it is her, I believe, strong sock base. You know, I could just pull the, here. Let me just pull this out of the center where I put it in. Like I said, it is another Crafty Girl. And this is her strong sock, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon in the colorway Punky Brewster. And that is this one. It looks like it was dyed in 2015, so that's about how long it's been in my stash. I used it to knit one of the Snug as a Mug samples, so I've used maybe 20 grams, so I have enough left to do socks for myself. And this will be my next sock yarn. I'm hoping to finish the opal socks this week. If nothing else, I'll probably finish them on the car trip. So I will take another pair of socks with me to work on in the car. So that is the next pair on the needles. Hopefully I'll finish 3, maybe 4 pairs before the end of June. That would be kind of exciting. And I also need to pull some leftovers and maybe knit Miss Roxy some socks and maybe even Miles a couple pairs. So that will also be coming in the next bit. So I think that finishes the knits and what's destined for the needles in these next couple weeks. And let me take a sip of tea and grab the fiber that fell on the floor and we'll do spinning. The table was really full today and so I knocked off the fiber that I'm going to spin next. First of all, let me show you what I just finished spinning. It was a braid from Hello Yarn. It is Polworth, which means it's going to be puffy and soft, and it was in oranges and reds and purples, and it is called Citrus, which is beautiful. It also looks like kind of a, like it reminds me of my tea a little bit, sugar and spice. It came out beautifully. It's got bits of orange and brown and a little bit of white in there, and then some sections of that purple, and it is just absolutely lovely. It is still quite wet. My guess is I probably got between 300 and 350 yards. It looks like a sport weight, probably. And this will be up in the shop this week. So if this is something that looks like you or looks like something you'd be interested in, please check it out. But I won't be able to get accurate measurements until it dries. So that is probably tomorrow's goal. So yes, I am super pleased with how this came out. This one was a fun one to spin. The colors were very not me, but there were all these little sections of the braids with peaches and reds and purples that I just loved. I really, really enjoyed spinning this one this week, and it is just a super fluffy, squishy skein. So yes, and this one I spun specifically because one of the spinning groups that I'm in had a challenge to spin something orange this month. So that is my orange. And another group that I am in, actually the Southern Cross Fiber group, he has been posting spinning challenges each month. Just to kind of keep everyone interested in spinning along. And his prompt this month was something that makes you happy. And the prompt is basically, here's the prompt, spin something from Southern Cross Fiber and tell us what about it makes you happy. So I went looking for Southern Cross fiber in my stash and came up with last October's club colorway. This is called Boil and Bubble, and it was the Halloween colorway, and it is a pink, it is purples and blues and kind of a minty green, and then a really almost lime green, a little bit of electric there. I really, really love this. This is on South African Superfine Merino, so that is my favorite fiber to spin, which totally makes me happy. And Halloween and fall make me happy, and these colors make me happy, so it is definitely a happy braid. So that is what I will be spinning up this week. That will be destined for the shop as well. So if those are your colors, keep an eye out. I will not finish this week because we'll be away and I'm not taking a wheel with me. And so I will finish this next week and have it up to show you for the podcast. So that is what I will be working on. I think I got through everything. I know it's a somewhat short podcast, but I feel like I got through a lot of material. I hope that you have had a wonderful week and that you're looking forward to a wonderful week ahead. I am sorry that I probably won't see you next weekend, but I look forward to regrouping with you in 2 weeks to discuss all the knits and spins, and I hope that you have a wonderful 2 weeks, and I will say, as I always do, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye!